You know, Craig Witt fell in love with Exit Realty since 2004. And when I first came to the company, actually when I became involved with Exit, I have seen him directly with agents and owners and regional owners and the executive leadership. And what I saw in Craig was he is a born leader. And he has such a passion for helping all of our Exit Nation improve themselves personally and professionally. And I'm really proud of you, Craig, as you've been newly appointed as our CEO for the U.S. division. For the industry, he's going to have a conversation with us about challenge, empower, and how to orchestrate it all. Please give Craig Witt a warm Southeast welcome to the stage. Look how nice I was.
You were. That's very kind of you. I'll pay you later. I'll try not to. It's my motivational coach. How's everybody today? I love what I do. You notice I didn't say I love my job? This is not a job to me. This is actually play. This is a lot of fun. And I mean, where else can you travel the country and stay in hotels and get on dirty airplanes and catch colds and shake dirty hands? I didn't know that was part of the plan, but it is. The worst thing you can ever do is follow somebody like Michael Burt. The worst thing you can do is actually sit in the audience while someone like that is speaking. Because you start thinking about your speech, Bob, and what you're going to say. And you start writing things down and say, oh, I need to add that. I need to put that in. That's good. Oh, I need to take out this. I need to put that in. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. Stick to the plan. Stick to your speech. Do your thing. You're that person. Michael Burt is his person. How many of you have children? How many of you don't know that you have children? Oh, I'm the only one, right? How many of you are sitting in the audience like I was, thinking, I know so many people that could use this talk right now. I wish my child was sitting right next to me right now listening to this. I'm thinking, how do I get her into this class? My daughter's 31 years old, still trying to figure out what she wants to do in life. We've got a 10-year-old grandson. I say we've got a 10-year-old grandson because I feel like I'm very involved in helping raise him. But I'm sitting here thinking, my God, I've got to get my grandson in front of this guy. When is it too soon? When is it too late? I'm going to tell a little story later about him and playing football this year for his first time in tackle football. That's fun to watch. America's preferred home warranty. I do want to share this story with you because it plays into what I want to talk about today, and that is the idea of belief. One of the strongest personal traits I think that you can have is belief. See, when I first met Randy Callwriter from America's Preferred Home Warranty, he came to an event that we were doing when I was with Exit. And this guy was just larger than life. He was like Michael Burt. He was so exciting and so excitable. He had a dream, he had a vision. And he said, we're going to build this company, and here's what we do. He knew his story, his script. He knew exactly where he wanted to grow. But it was within the confines of Michigan. So this was back in 2004. 2006, what happened to our market? Things started to turn, right? You noticed it probably most in Florida right away, but it hit Michigan in a big way where I'm from because we're a big 3 automaker state. And back in the time, we were a lot of second home buyers from the Detroit area. And Randy called me one day and he says, listen, I want to talk to you. He says, come down to my place in Spring Lake. Spring Lake's a beautiful area down in the southern part of Michigan. Randy's a boater and I'm a boater, so we kind of had that connection. And I get to the marina and I'm looking for him, I can't see him, and I see this big boat, Tammy, and I walk down and there's smoke coming out of it, and I'm like, oh, this has got to be Randy. So I walk down to the dock and the engine compartment's up and it's just a filthy mess. He bought this big old Carver, this big like motor yacht, and he's down in the engine room and he comes back up, he's all greasy, and he says, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming down. Did you find the place okay? Yeah. He says, listen, I want to talk to you about something really serious. He said, I respect you as a business person. We've built a great relationship. He said, but I'm at a point in my business where I either need to grow or I need to slow down and just stay in Michigan. He says, and I need your advice. And we sat there for about an hour and I just poked holes in everything that he was doing. Honestly, I wasn't negative, but I was like, man, the recession is coming. I don't know what's going to happen. happened? Things are starting to go bad. Like, are you sure you want to invest money into this company right now and try to start growing this thing? I says, I don't think it's a good idea. I said, you asked me for my personal opinion, my advice. I said, I don't know that I would take that risk. And he said, you just helped me make my decision. I said, well, good, that's what you asked me for. He says, I'm going to grow. I said, okay, well, good. I clearly know I'm not in the coaching business. He said, I believe that now is the time. I believe that what I offer is so unique and so different, and my leadership and my drive, my pray drive, what Michael Burt talked about, will make us one of the premier home warranty companies in the country. He says, I will be in all 50 states in the next 10 years. You can mark my words. And every time Randy would go into a new state, he would call me. He'd say, hey, we're in Tennessee. Hey, we're going into Oregon. Hey, we're trying to bust into Washington. Hey, we're going into Maryland. He'd call me and we'd celebrate every single time. And I've watched that company grow because he had a vision. He had a belief. And you know what? He's a very faith-based man. And he said, I know that the good Lord is going to help me. He said, I know that I've got him on my side and I can make this work. And he started hiring people like Andrew and Cal Dutton. How many of you know Cal Dutton? Cal Dutton, you don't know, you got to know Cal Dutton. Follow this guy. He hired people and surrounded himself with doers, achievers, workers, hard-working individuals that saw the same dream and the same vision. And you know what he did every single year, twice a year? He did a summer retreat, he did a fall retreat. He'd fly everybody into a remote location and they'd just brainstorm. And they would just talk about how do we make the company better? I can't do it on my own, right? The business of belief. How do we make it better? When I was young, my mom and dad, we were from the Detroit area. My dad was a police officer for Wayne County Sheriff's Department down in Detroit. And it was at a time back in the 70s where crime was starting to get more strong. It was starting to become more dangerous to live there. My mom grew up a Catholic schoolgirl, had a nun teacher in class, and she's told me all the stories about the ruler and all that stuff. I don't know if anybody else grew up that way, but we were reminded about that every Saturday. My dad got us out of Detroit and took a position up in a small town called Kalkaska, Michigan, which is a very small community. It's a thriving metropolis up in Michigan. One stoplight. And my dad became a deputy, and he hauled us up there a little bit at a time. He moved himself up first, and then about 6 months later, I was just a young boy and maybe 2 or 3 years old, and he finally moved up. My mom and my other 2 brothers, I've got 2 older brothers, Charlie and Chris, and we moved into this rundown mobile home, single-wide trailer out in the middle of the country, 20 miles from home. We had an old Chevy Nova, and that's what drove us around. These are my earliest childhood memories. My dad was a hero. Like everybody in town knew my dad. My dad was that cop that would pick you up when you've been drinking and driving, and he would drive you home, right? Can't do that anymore because body cameras. But he would do that, and everyone liked my dad. And my dad actually was one of the first motorcycle cops in the state of Michigan. Went to school with another guy, and it was pretty cool. He used to lead the Trout Festival parade, and it was a pretty cool thing. But every Saturday, my mom would take us to church. Now, across the street from us, down this gravel driveway, we would cross the street. We were out in the middle of nowhere. This is rural. And my aunt and uncle lived on this small lake. So, in essence, we lived on this small lake because we got access to this and we could use it whenever we wanted. And my dad was always buying things that we couldn't afford. We did not have any money. My dad was living on a police officer's income. My mom was a secretary. We probably made $20,000, $25,000 a year combined family income when I was little. And our interest rate on our house was 21%. I learned all this later. Everyone thinks 4% out of this world, right? 21%. But every Saturday when we're down at the lake having fun around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my mom would come down and snap her fingers and she'd say, it's time to go to church. And we would whine and complain because we didn't want to go to church. But she'd put us in the back of this 150-degree Chevy Nova with the vinyl seats and no seat belts, and off to Kalkaska we'd go. And my mom sang in the choir. And little by little as we grew up, we became altar boys. And my mom's dream was to have all 3 of us boys be altar boys at the same time. Well, it came true. So after catechism and all these painful Saturdays, we would go in on Saturday afternoon, we'd put on the white robe and the robe, and we'd sit down at the kneeler, and my brother was the oldest, so he got to ring the bell and do the incense and all this stuff. And my mom was just in her glory. And I remember this one time when the pastor stood up, and he went to the lectern, and he said, you know, He said, it's easy to walk on water if you know where the rocks are. And I listened to that. I thought for a second. I was young. I was probably only 9 or 10 years old, probably my grandson's age. And I thought, it's easy to walk on water if you know where the rocks are. He says, yeah. He says, if you've got someone coaching you and helping you and guiding you through life and putting out these steps for you to show you the way, anybody can do this. There's a story of Jesus and Peter. And by the way, this is not a religious speech because I know very little about religion, although I spent most of my early life in church. But there's a story, if you remember, when Jesus is sitting there calling to Peter, and Peter's in the boat, and he's like, come on, you can do it, walk across the Sea of Galilee with me, come to me, and he goes to step off the boat, and he's got total focus on Jesus, and he's looking at him, and he's got belief, and he's walking out, and next thing you know, this huge thunderstorm is developing, and he takes his eye off of Jesus, and he looks, and he's studying and focusing on the danger, and he becomes afraid. And what happens to Peter? Down he goes, right? The idea of belief. What you see in this room this week is an idea of belief. With your regional owners, Stacy and Kenny, who made a tremendous investment over the last few years to acquire these states and to invest in all of you, and ultimately come to this today, to have a room filled with all of you to give you a better life, to provide a foundation and a business model and leadership to help you all grow. They believed in Exit, our company. This brand that no one still understands really what the word means, Tammy, other than it's over every corporate door in America. But it's a cool name because we all love it now. But they invested in it because they had belief. They believe that Exit Realty is the best brand out there. And we believe that too. It's easy when you believe. It's easy to walk on water when you know where the rocks are. It's easy when you've got Kenny and Stacy putting down the rocks in front of you saying, come with me, follow me. Listen to Michael Burt. Everybody needs a coach. Think about this guy getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing at 4 o'clock in the morning? Because I can tell you what I'm doing at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not getting up listening to Travis Tritt. That is the lead. Unless I'm going to the bathroom, I'm not up that early. Maybe I'm starting to feel a little bit like a loser after his speech. I don't know. Maybe all of you are too. These are unique human beings. Does he expect each and every one of us to do exactly what he does? No. What he expects is for you to take something that he said today and make something of it, and then pass that forward and give it to somebody else, and inspire somebody else to do better. What Kenny and Stacy are doing in this region is providing opportunity for each and every one of us to grow. What they do here, what you do in your community, affects everybody up the line. You know that, right? Like, this is not just us against them. This is us against us trying to build this company with unwavering focus. And that's what we need. We need people in leadership. We need people that are willing to step up, raise their hand. And that's what we're asking of all of you. It's important to remember where we come from and to always stay humble. I remember when I found Exit a month ago, 17 years ago. 17 years ago, my business partner and I had just sold the company and we were looking for the next thing. We decided we wanted to get into real estate. We wanted to develop property. So we thought, well, let's go get our real estate license because that sounds easy. There's thousands of them around town. It can't be too hard, right? I know some of these realtors and they can pass the test. I certainly can pass the test. So we did it. We went and got licensed, sat through the 40-hour class, learned how to calculate acreage. Next thing you know, we're realtors. And we decided that we didn't want to work for anybody else. We wanted to have our own company. So we ended up investing in an Exit franchise. We bought our first franchise. And the regional owner that we had at the time, Tammy, Dan Hartman, I won't name names. Dan was a full-time attorney and a part-time regional owner, and God loved him. The guy was a lot like Michael Burt, except he was twice his size and he had hair. He was unbelievably driven. This guy would leave at 10 o'clock at night from Traverse City, Michigan, and he'd drive all the way to Toronto to come to broker training just to be there with us when we were at broker training. Like, he was that dedicated, right? He was just spreading himself too thin. But when he told us the story of Exit, it was an easy decision for us because we didn't come from the real estate background. We came from the business background. So I looked at it as a business investment. This was the best thing that we could get that nobody else had. Back in that time in 2004, Exit was not known, not in our area. No one had heard of it before. And Bob, to steal your word, we were pioneers. We were the first ones that invested in this thing called Exit. And we were proud of it. And as soon as we started telling our trusted friends that we were going to buy this thing called Exit, you know what they said? Why? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just go join Coldwell Banker? They've got 400 agents. They've been around for 40 years. They're the biggest in the area. Everyone knows that business doesn't go to the agent. It comes from the brand. I'm like, what? No, that's not what I want. I'm a pioneer. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I want something that no one else has. Well, at that time, we were the only ones talking about Exit in our community. And everyone was looking at us going, well, if you make it a year, then we'll come and talk to you. We had a really tough time the first year. But we went to broker training. And at broker training, Steve Morris told us to hire all the trainers, Keith. I said, which trainer do we hire? He says, hire them all. Okay, well, you're not spending the money, I am, so I'm going to think carefully about that. And we did. And he said, come back to broker training the next time, and come back to broker training the next time. And if I remember right, Tammy, we were having like 6 a year at the time. We were booming. The company was growing. And every time I'd go to broker training, I'd meet more of you, more people that were in leadership positions. Got to know Steve better, got to know Tammy better, and Erica and Joyce and all of our leadership. And just started feeling more and more like this is where I belong. Like this is the right decision. We did the right thing. And then we built another Exit franchise. And then we opened another Exit franchise. Everything was going our way. Now remember, this is 2004, 5, and 6. The train's rolling down the track. And all of a sudden, the door to the mountain closed. And I found myself getting an opportunity to work with Exit in a leadership position to be a divisional president, and then go out and help everybody grow and kind of structure and stabilize some of these other regions. So I learned a lot of life experience about Exit on the job. And I've said this before, it doesn't make me the authority that I know everything about what you're all going through, but I have been in your shoes. And I know a lot about everything from the agent level, selling real estate like we did. Our first year, we did about $32 million, the three of us, in 1 year in our area. That was a huge accomplishment. It took us from not even registering on the Association of Realtors to being in the top 10. I mean, it showed me quickly that if you just get up and go to work every day and focus on what you need to do, you can do it, right? So I find myself now in this position as a CEO of the US. And a CEO it's a weird feeling. It's a feeling that all of a sudden you wake up one day and you have this enormous pressure on your shoulders, right? And you feel like, I'm responsible. I don't want to be responsible. I want to be irresponsible because that's what I'm best at. And now I have to be responsible. And all of you saw the video yesterday with me and my deer blind and my camo with my crossbow. That's what I like to do because that's where I'm comfortable. I do have a prey drive, and that's it. All right? But that's like solitude for me. That's therapy. To go out in the woods and do nothing but sit there and watch chipmunks run around. Okay? But I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, my God, to be a CEO of a company like this, you guys, this is nothing small. Our company is a big company. We're a significant company. We will be more significant, but we are significant right now. So don't take that lightly. And I think about that. I think now all of a sudden, I have to continue to carry on and walk in the shoes that Tammy Bunnell set so that she can move up and she can continue to do more things, better things, and be a better vision caster for our company. This is a big job. So the first thing I did, Bob, was I got on YouTube, because everybody goes to YouTube, right? Because everything you see or read on there is true. So I'm like, well, I'm going to study CEOs. I'm going to learn. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, and I'm going to try and figure out exactly what it takes to be a good, effective CEO. What does that mean? I know what it means. I've been a business owner multiple times. But what does it really mean when you've got a bunch of people that are following you and they're counting on you? And not just our people counting on me, but their families are counting on me, and the industry is counting on me. So, what did I learn? I learned that the CEOs that are out there now, and by the way, read that book, Good to Great, if you've not read that yet, Good to Great, so I read that again. I learned that most CEOs made a lot of mistakes before they got the position that they got. Most of them were failures. Most of them were failures. How many of you know the story of Steve Jobs with Apple? Builds this great company, hires somebody in as a succession plan to step into the chairman of the board. Next thing you know, they have a private meeting and Steve Jobs gets fired from his own company. That's a fine how do you do. Hopefully that doesn't happen here, Tammy. I'm counting on you. If it is, it is. If I'm not doing my job, get rid of me. That's the way this works. Every day you got to get up and perform. That's just the way it is, right? But I looked at all these CEOs and I'm thinking, like, God, what makes them so special? And there's a section in Good to Great where it talks about 8 out of 11 CEOs that took companies from good to great were actually homegrown CEOs in the sense that they actually came up through the ranks in their own company. When companies stepped outside of their brand and they hired outside people to come in to try and lead their company, they failed. Why is that? They failed because they didn't have the belief, they didn't have the vision, they didn't grow up with it. They didn't see all the tough times. All they saw was good times. Most companies, again, I'll say it again because we keep drilling this down, but it's profits over people. That's how corporations think, because most companies are Wall Street companies. They're traded companies. They've got shareholders. They've got to turn profits so that everybody can make their money back and continue to earn, and spend. Okay? It's the American way. The CEO position is the executive that makes the key decision making for the company. Now, Tammy, we all know that if Steve's still here, that is never happening, right? But we're gonna work on that. Steve wants to win. We all know Steve wants. He wants to win. Our job is to help him win. Our job is to help all of you win. Okay? So I thought, can I come up with an acronym for a CEO that's more fitting for me? So I came up with this idea of challenge, empower, and orchestrate. Challenge, empower, and orchestrate. Challenge the status quo. I'm a very transparent guy. If it ain't working, fix it. Okay? If it ain't working, fix it. Find a way to fix it. I gave a speech at convention a couple of years ago that talked about my past brother-in-law when I was in the welding industry. I was a welder, helper, and then a welder, and I worked for my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law always said, no is not an answer. Like, it's an answer, but it's not the answer we use. You're gonna find a way to get this done. We worked in the oil and gas business. We were out on drilling rigs. We were working in the snow and the heat, the slop. We were up to this high with water when we were welding. We would literally take the welding rod and I'd take the ground and I'd stick it to the side of the culvert. And as soon as I touched the welding rod to the casing at the well, it would electrocute me and then it would ground and then I could start welding. That's what I was doing when I was 19 years old. But Todd always said, whatever it takes to get the job done, get the job done. Do not say no, because that's how we get repeat business. And we would make parts out of the back of the truck. Somebody would forget to buy something for the job, and Todd would say, we'll go grab a piece of plate steel and get out the pipe fitter's handbook, and we'll figure out how to make the thing, right? So when I think about challenge, I think about there's nothing that we can't do. There's nothing that we can't do. There's people doing it every day. You just watched Michael Burr stand up here and talk about how he takes ordinary people and does extraordinary things. Think about the story of his wife. Think about the story of his wife when he first met her. And I can actually see that kind of happening, right? 3 years on hard drugs, and then all of a sudden just turns it off. You know, my middle brother was a heroin addict. When he was younger, he decided that he wanted to move away, and because he didn't fit in our hometown. So he moved out of the Detroit area, and he moved in with my uncle. And he started trading tattoos for heroin. And a year later, we realized that he was like this full-blown heroin addict. And he shows up one day at our house, like 2 years later, and he says, I need a place to live. And I was living in my own mobile home at the time, my own single wife, my first house, bought a brand new off the lot, $28,000, put it on 5 acres. And Chris shows up, and he says, I got a problem. He says, well, I'm gonna fix it. I said, what's the problem? He says, I'm addicted to heroin. I said, that is a problem. And I said, but that doesn't live here, because I'm not, and I don't condone that, and it's, sorry, but you can't live here. The only way you can live here is if you don't do that. And he says, well, I'm gonna stop. I'm like, okay, well, everything I've ever read about stopping heroin or addicted drugs, it doesn't happen that way. Well, my brother Chris stopped cold turkey that fast, literally overnight, and then moved in. And then we nursed him back to health, and he got a job, and he got back on his feet. But I could see that happening with Coach Bird. Like, I could see that happening. And then all of a sudden, what? He sees her and goes, I've got a project here. Like, I can fix her. Whether that's the way it happened or not, I don't know, but that's how I think. See, as a CEO, I look out into this audience and I say, there's a lot of, what? Issues. A lot of issues. You know why I know there's a lot of issues? Because y'all call me. You say, I got an issue, I got a problem, I need some help. That's what I'm here for. Because you know what? I want to keep you from touching the stove, because the stove is hot. That's what I always told my daughter. My daughter kept making these recurring bad decisions, a lot like I did when I was her age. I'm like, honey, it's like you're walking down the hallway, and you know the Grim Reaper is right behind the door, and he's got a sickle, he's going to lop your head off, but you just keep walking up and opening the door. I want to keep you from doing that. That's what a good leader does. We take our life experience, we share it with you, let you make the mistake, and then we work on not making that mistake again. Okay? Never going to be perfect, but we're going to try hard. We're going to get as good as we can. Motivation. Now, I don't believe that you can motivate anybody, because I've tried. Again, I've tried to motivate my daughter. I've tried to motivate other people in my life. I've tried to motivate my mother, who's a chronic alcoholic, and I just can't seem to get through to her. I've tried to get them to change. You can't fix people. You can try, but I believe the only thing you can do is encourage people, right? Lead by example, exhibit good behavior, do all the right things. And by the way, I want to ask everybody to stop feeling guilty right now for everybody that you think you can fix and you can't, and start focusing on yourself. Right? Because what's that called? That's like enabling. I lived with that guilt for years. My father fell off the deep end. He had a bad car accident in a patrol car. He was chasing a snowmobile in the winter, and he went off this cliff, he went off this hill and rolled down into a pond and almost died. Broke his back. And you know what they did? They took him off of road duty after 30 years. He was a sergeant. He was an accomplished police officer. And because he broke his back, they put him in the dispatch office, and they never put him back on road patrol. Guess what happened to his spirit? Right? Couldn't go out and do what he loved anymore. Came home one day and told my mom that he had a girlfriend. That's never a good thing to say. On our way to church on Sunday, by the way. If you want to see a scorned woman go crazy, she actually drove to his house where he was living with this woman. This is how crazy my family was. She finds out where he's living, and he's got his brand new Buick LeSabre parked in the garage that she didn't know. And she takes her car, and she gets about 100 feet out at the end of the road, and she hits the gas and takes off and drives through the garage and hits his car and says, "Go ahead and call the cops," and drives away. We didn't know about it for like 4 or 5 days. My brother Charlie said, "You know what Mom did last week? We need to get her some help." I said, "I know what she did. She sent a message." She'd go to the grocery store in town, and my mom would be shopping, and this woman that my dad was having an affair with would see her and run down 4 aisles and try to avoid it because he knew that she was next. You can't make this stuff up. So I learned a lot of life examples from my family. I learned what to do, what not to do. And again, with motivation, you know, I've been fortunate. I've been very fortunate. And I don't know where. Sometimes some person asks me, where do I get my work ethic from? Like, who did I hang around with when I was younger? I tended to hang around with older people, people that had businesses. I worked at a golf course for a little while, and all the people that came to the golf course were like accomplished business people in the oil and gas business. I'm like, well, that's what I want to do when I get older. I want to come play golf at 3 o'clock. How do I do that? And it was enlightening, and I learned a lot. And they let me come play golf with them at like 4:30 when I got done working. And I would just listen to them. I listened to these older men just kind of beat each other up and laugh and gamble and do all this fun stuff. And working for my old brother-in-law in the welding business and just kind of building that work ethic. But you know, we're going to hear from Blue Holtz today. And I got to tell you, Notre Dame is not my favorite team. I'm just going to come out and say that. If he's in the room, I'm just going to come out. Notre Dame's not my favorite team. See, I'm a University of Michigan Wolverine. All right? And we don't like the SEC either. So, because you always beat us. So don't come to Michigan. Worst decision ever was letting Alabama play Michigan in the home opener at the AT&T Stadium a few years ago where they smoked us. That was like defeating our home opener. We had a horrible year that year. But Notre Dame has got something that nobody else has. They've got God on their side. Right? The year that I went to broker training for the first time. My buddy in the insurance industry invited us to a Michigan-Notre Dame game down in South Bend, Indiana. Has anyone ever been to Notre Dame, to South Bend to watch that? It's actually pretty amazing. So my insurance buddy, who also grew up Catholic Christian, he goes, hey, come on, we're gonna go to the Basilica, which I learned was like this big building where they go in and pray. And we're gonna stand outside because they always do a prayer before they come out on the field. And then we're gonna walk with them down this sidewalk and turn, and then we'll go as far as we can go. And I remember standing there along this sidewalk when I was younger. And again, this was a Saturday, just before I drove to broker training on that Sunday. And I watched all these football players come out. You know they paint their helmets before every game? Like, these are some traditions that are pretty cool about Notre Dame. Come walking out, and all these guys are hand in hand, and they are at two. And they have one thing on their mind, and that is murdering whoever's in the stadium. Okay? Forget what God just told them to do, because they've got one thing on their mind. They've got Pray Drive, to steal Coach Bert's line. And I was moved. Like, I was like, my God, you can feel that, right? I'm like, these guys are going to annihilate Michigan. Well, we ended up winning the game, thankfully, by a small margin. And then we got in the car, we spent that night, we went out and had too many beers, and then we got up the next morning and we drove to broker training. But Lou Holtz coached at Notre Dame, and you're going to hear probably part of his story today. But there's a famous quote that he said that I live and die by, and I just sent it to Kenny and Stacy the other day. And I don't know if you've heard this before, but his line, somebody had asked him one time, how do you motivate your team? And he says, well, motivation is simple. You just eliminate those people that aren't motivated. That's what we're doing here. Nicer though. We want motivated people. We want people to get up every day and say, I love where I work, I love what I do, and I love everything about Exit Realty, and I'm going to do my part to make it better. And I'm going to defend our brand, and I'm going to go out and build a great reputation, not just for myself, but the brand that I stand behind. I belong to a family, and I belong to a family that actually cares about me. Because that's where you belong. And that's what you're going to get. You're counting on our leadership, we're counting on you. This is a two-way street. Tom Brady was a mutt when he came out of Michigan. Like that little puppy dog in the corner that was underweight and kind of ugly and nobody wanted him. 199th pick on the 6th round of the NFL draft. He ran like a 10-second 40. I don't know. It was something ridiculous, right? He had to stop and take a break along the way. Now look at him. They call that the greatest draft steal of all time. Think about being picked 200th. Ooh. He was 199th. Like, could you imagine sitting there in your living room and your family's sitting there and then finally they go to bed because you're not picked yet? Right? He wakes up in the morning and he's like, I'm going to play for the New England Patriots. They have one extra spot, and I guess I got it by default. And now look at him. He goes to Tampa, and he's like the golden child, right? The golden child. I don't know if you ever watched Tom Brady play, but at the end of every touchdown that he either throws or the running back makes, he runs and finds that teammate. You know what I'm talking about? He always runs into the end zone. He pushes everyone out of the way. He gets to them. He grabs the back of their helmet, bumps their helmet. You know what he says to them? He says, great job, let's do it again. Great job, let's do it again. Isn't that what we just heard Michael Burt say? The closing is great, but let's go get the next one. Let's go do the next one. No one remembers what you did. They only remember what you're going to do. No one cares about that. How about when he went back to New England a couple weeks ago? Think that was cold? You know, he was the first one in the office and the last one to leave every day. He had his own parking spot next to Bill Belichick. This guy was a leader. He's a leader because he knew how to assemble good people around him, and he let them do their job. And he did all the homework for them and said, here's what you need to do. All I need you to do is show up and do your job. Do your job. That's what we need to do. We have a job to do, and we need to do our job. We need to grow. This company has unlimited potential. Being in the position that I am, getting to see what's going on across the country, in every state that we represent, the real estate industry, our competition. Nobody can beat this. Like, it's almost laughable, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful. But what we have, compared to what everyone else does, is so beatable. When I start looking at our competition, and I think about, what do they offer their agents? Higher splits? Less stuff? More stuff? Greater technology? How can we have greater technology? Whatever they build today, it's old tomorrow, right? Everybody's got stuff. Leadership in these other companies, many times, is just middle managers collecting a check, wearing a suit, showing up, looking good, waiting to get paid. They don't care about you. They care about anybody. They care about themselves. They care about the next car they're going to buy or their bonus that they're going to get if they hit their numbers. What numbers? Their numbers. They're not selling real estate. That's not how we think. That is not how we think here. We think about getting the most and best out of you so that the company can grow. How do we put our best mindset trainers in front of you, like Rick O'Neill and Key and Angel and everybody else, and say, we're going to invest time in you to make you the best? You know what else we do? We don't just teach you how to be better professionally, we teach you how to be better personally. For those of you that have been in broker training and got weirded out by Steve talking about the affirmation principle like I did the first time. First time I walked into broker training, he wants to start talking about me. I'm like, no. I didn't buy this. I don't need you to fix me. I'm fixed, I'm perfect. I'm just here to learn how to run a brokerage going to exit. Boy, was I naive. What I've learned from that experience and from Steve over these years is that he does care about me, and he cares about us. And you know, when he talks to me, he brings up things that are relevant to me personally. When I talk to Tammy and she says, how's Mason, your grandson, doing? How's Megan doing? How's Abby doing? Are you still flying? I'm a pilot. I love to fly. She cares about me. That's important. Those are the things that we want. That's what we want out of you. We want you to embrace each other. I wrote a Witt this Monday talking about when you're going through tough times, pick up the phone and call a friend. Call me. I don't care. I feel really bad because one of our regional owners called me that day and I never returned his call until the next day. But I called him back and said I was trapped on a plane, and I actually was. I may not get back to you right away, but I will get back to you. We're not perfect, right? But I will get back to you. If it's that important that you need to talk, call me. I don't want you going through this alone. Exit Realty is a company of doers. We're achievers. We're not complainers. We're not excusers. We're not, oh, it's that person's fault. It's my fault. If something's wrong, we fix it. That's what we do. We're a company of achievers. For them to put up the money to hire and bring in Coach Michael Burt today could be life-changing for you. You agree? What he said could be life-changing for you. I guarantee you that what I heard him say today motivated me to be better. It did. And again, the first thing I'm thinking is, man, I wish my daughter Megan was sitting right here, and I wish my grandson Mason at 10 years old was sitting right here. I told you I was going to share a quick story about my grandson. It's relevant because it talks about systems. I said that we didn't like Notre Dame when I was growing up because we were Michigan fans. When I grew up in the small town of Kalkaska, we were the Kalkaska Blazers. We went one year 0-9 in football, and the next year we went 9-0. We're that kind of school. Okay? My brother was an all-star football player, went on to play Grand Valley State. He was a running back. He was my hero growing up. There was one team that we couldn't stand. You got that rival, right? Who's your rival? Right? Russell, who's your rival? Lubbock, who's your rival? All of them. Okay. Oh, we hate everybody. There was this school in Traverse City, about 30 miles away, called Traverse City St. Francis Gladiators, which, by the way, was the church that I belonged to when I got a little older. Traverse City St. Francis Gladiators. They had all the rich parents, they had all the money. They had beautiful new uniforms every year. They had a great school bus. Like my parents drove us to football games, right? But they had school buses. They had tuition, so they had money. We always played them for homecoming, and they always kicked our butt. We hated it. We just absolutely hated it. So in my brother's senior year, they decided they were going to break into the St. Francis school, which did not go over well with him. And they stole a a football uniform. And they brought it back to Kalkaska, and they built this huge telephone pole teepee, and they hoisted this thing up on the teepee, and they lit it on fire right in front of their school bus when they pulled it. It was the fire department showed up, it was out of control. My grandson now plays for Traverse City St. Francis. Not because we paid tuition, but because my daughter missed the filing deadline to get him into his public school football program. So they felt bad, so they gave him a slot, one left, in the Traverse City St. Francis 5th grade football program, okay? Now my grandson is like 4 foot tall, 55 pounds, and there are kids on this team that are like almost 6 foot tall, like 100 pounds. And they are monsters. Like I swear St. Francis like brings in freshmen to play 5th grade, just to win, okay? There's something very unique about Traverse City St. Francis and why they win. They typically go to the state championships, and they usually win it all. And I learned what it was this year. For years, it was like the Coca-Cola recipe, right? Like, what makes them so special? Why do they keep winning? Is it because they got great coaches? Maybe. I don't know. Is it because they got discipline? I don't know. Maybe they got him on their side. I don't know. Works for Notre Dame, right? So I sit down with the coach, and I'm like, how do you guys, like, we hate you. How do you guys keep winning? He says, well, I'll tell you, it's very simple. He says, we follow a system. We follow a system at St. Francis. He says, and from the time that your grandson plays in 5th grade until the time that he graduates as a senior, it's all the same football plays. We don't change anything. All the coaches get together every week and we talk about strategy. We are here to win. We are not here to give you an award because your kid happened to get dressed and show up that day. We are here to win. And I'm like, all right, I guess that. So I sit down with my grandson. I'm like, listen, buddy, he's not athletically gifted. That's the nicest way I can say that. He would rather be catching frogs, shooting squirrels, shooting birds, using his bow. He wants to fish all the time. He's like me, right? I said, do you want to play football? He goes, I love football. I said, that's not what I asked you. Do you want to play and be good at football? He says, yes. I said, well, you're not built for football. But we're going to sit down and watch Rudy tonight, okay? We're going to sit down and watch Rudy. So we sit down, and we got a beautiful little theater room in our house. We sit down, like, now pay attention because he's distracted all the time like me. Sits down, watches it, there's Rudy getting up, getting hit by all these guys, time after time after time again. And I'm like, can you handle that? He goes, oh yeah, bring it on, I can take that. I said, I want to tell you something about where you're playing. I said, this team is here to win. If you don't perform, you will not play. Like, until they put a couple touchdowns on the board, their second string isn't going to see the field. So if you want to be in that first string, you've got to perform. And I remember the first time that I went out to watch them guys play, and my wife and I and my daughter are sitting in the stands and we're anticipating. You ever had that feeling of anxiety? Like, oh my God, they're going to crush it. Well, he didn't start, obviously. But as soon as that team took the field, they all went out, they approached the line, they've got blue jerseys and gold. They look sharp. And the quarterback, who's just 4 foot nothing, says set. The entire team goes down, and you can hear a hush from the crowd. Like, this is a well-oiled machine. I'm like, these are not the kids I saw in practice. They look like chaos. These kids are good. And they smoked them like 31-0 in the first game. They follow the system, and the system works. That's what I want you to do, is follow our system. Don't open the hood, don't monkey with it, don't change anything, don't come to me and say, well, this doesn't work. Well, good, then let's fix it. If you've got a complaint or if you've got an issue, come to us, and we'll fix it. We've got a system. You pay for it every July 1st to belong to this company to get everything great that we've got. For Annette and her tutelage to come in and help you do this and handhold you to get this done. I was voted class clown and least likely to succeed in school. Least likely to succeed, and I tied for that. My wife reminded me that I couldn't even win that. Thank you, honey. Now I feel like a real loser. I don't know if I'm closer to Kristen from Cutco or Rick O'Neill not liking math. Because I like to play with scissors when I was a kid. One day, I was mouthing off in class, Mr. Haberley's 4th or 5th grade class, and he had put me in the corner. Back then, we didn't have timeout. By the way, I started the timeout room in our school, okay? It was a cafeteria, but it counts. Puts me in the corner, and I had those silver ambidextrous scissors. Remember those, the things that hurt your fingers when you cut paper? And my scissors had a little crook at the end, Rick, like a little bend right at the tip. And they sat me right in front of an outlet. And I got bored. And I was angry. And I was hostile. And I took those scissors, and I had to turn them to get them in there. And as soon as I turned them back, bang, it shocked me, and bang, it blew me back. And it wasn't a split second. Our school counselor, who's 7 foot tall, come walking behind me, leaving the room. He grabs me by the back of the shirt, picks me up, and drags me into the cafeteria and into the timeout room, and that's how it got started. And now look at me. This is who's leading your company. In all seriousness, and I mean this sincerely, I love all of you. I love this company. I love our vision. I love our mission. I love our sponsor component. I love everything with the fiber of my being about this company, or I would not be here. All right? Neither would you. I am asking you to be part of growing this company so we can sit back and we can look and see what we've built. What we've built, not what I've built, not what Tammy's built, not what Lori's built, or what Steve's built. We're taking that vision that Steve came up with, and we are carrying that ball across the finish line. And we are winning because we are winners. Do you agree? Absolutely. Thank you very much.